Hey, I'm Mike Develin. I have been a lifelong quant, which now is called data scientist. I do data science consulting, have built data science teams at various companies. I'm currently taking a little bit of a break, doing some consulting on the side, but trying to figure out kind of what's next. So.
Great. Awesome. And you spent a long time at Shopify recently?
Yeah, so most recently at Shopify, I was there for 2 years, basically leading and starting the craft of product data science. Before that, I was at Meta for 7 years, which is where I grew up. Great place to grow up, and some stuff in between, but here we are.
It's where a lot of product data science folks grew up, and I feel like it's where a lot of the industry kind of came from.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The diaspora is strong, including StatSig, obviously.
When you think about great product leaders from your time or even broader in history in our industry, what are who are the one or two folks that stick out in your mind as the goats of product and data leaders?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about people, I was at Instagram for a couple years at the end of Facebook, and I think it's less honestly about an individual person and more about kind of the culture that we were able to build there. And it's not even really just about data, but I think the best organizations, the best leaders are those who can get the most out of everyone around them, who don't have to have all the ideas themselves, who are open to learning new things. So like Kevin Systrom, who is at Instagram, who I worked with obviously closely there, he was always learning new things, right? Like I remember a time when I showed him a forecast model that we had built, and literally he pinged me Saturday night the following weekend and was like, I built a forecast, what do you think of it? And it's just that kind of curiosity and willingness to operate in new ways, I think is really what defined Kevin and most of the best leaders I've worked with, who are not we're gonna do this one thing and here's why, but who are open to kind of listening to people, getting great ideas from elsewhere, and evolving themselves as leaders and learning new things as well.
I can't remember the outlet, but they did an interview of what's interesting to you right now. I remember Kevin's answer was data pipelines.
Yeah.
And the interviewer was like, what? You don't have the next great social app idea? He was like, well, there's a lot to data pipelines.
Yeah.
And I think that really exemplifies what you're talking about of it's this core understanding of the if you dig a level deeper, what is the reason that we can provide great experiences?
Yeah, totally. I mean, not to give you all of Kevin's secrets, but one thing that I always found really remarkable about Kevin is he's so intentional about how he spends his time, and he spent a lot of his time not in meetings, right? You have this person who is CEO of one of the largest social networks and most successful companies of all time, and he probably carved out 2-3 hours every afternoon just to learn stuff, just to learn new things, dive into things himself. As opposed to most people in that position would just have wall-to-wall meetings all the time and all of that. But his commitment to kind of learning new things, geeking out about data pipelines or UX research or any number of a million other things was just really remarkable to me. He just wants to get better at being a leader and at being a product leader.
Speaking of remarkable in that vein, it's remarkable how common a theme that is amongst great leaders. I mean, everything we know about Mark Zuckerberg is he's the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. And I think a lot of this goes back to even, before tech or before people called things tech. So if you look at someone like a Warren Buffett, he operates in much the same way as well. When I think about great organizations, one organization that comes to mind is Bell Labs, the old Bell Labs, which in many ways tech is patterned after, about the mirror, the merging of technology and practical industrial applications. And if you look at the leaders there, they were operating in much the same way about constantly trying to learn and get better. People who are leading these research labs and people who are leading the company, working together also and kind of making that marriage really, really good.
As you reflect back through your journey, what are some key inflection points where you feel like you either had aha moments or big growing up moments?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I mean, I started out, just to give a very, very quick narration here, when I was 5 years old, I knew I was going to be a math professor because I love numbers and that's what you did with math. So I spent the next 23 years of my life sort of doing abstract things in math. And at some point I was like, wait, none of this stuff matters. None of this is going to manifest itself in the real world in my lifetime at least. You could make an argument for in the long term. Then I went to Wall Street, did 3 years in quantitative trading. I hated it.
I was going to say, when you said you were a quant, I was like, oh, a quant.
Yeah, I was a quant for 3 years doing high frequency trading. But even that was sort of unsatisfying, and I never felt the end result of what I was doing was making rich people more money. And it was just this very kind of abstract thing. But what the aha moment for me was the first time I worked on product. So I started at Facebook in 2011. A lot of luck and privilege. My roommate at the time worked at Facebook, so I worked into Facebook. And about a year in, I got the opportunity to work on our graph search product, which will go down in history as one of the biggest failures of all time. But
I mean, computationally insanely expensive and incredibly powerful as a user.
Incredibly powerful,
I miss it
incredibly
so much
difficult
still.
technical system.
Yeah.
People like us maybe loved it. It turns out the average person is not going to try to type grammatical sentences, nor should they. That's not a dig at them, right? It's just like you can't expect your users to do that much work. But the lessons aside, got to really like see that product come to life and where it was working and where it was mostly not working, and just falling in love with this idea that my skill set, whatever that is, can be used to build better products and can be used to like help figure out not just kind of what happened, but what will happen in the future and what we should do about it. And I think that experience working on search, I had the good fortune to have great mentors, great partners during that that let me in. I remember there was one meeting I was in when I first started working on search. I'd been working on that for like 3 months, first time I'd ever worked on product. The meeting was our VP of engineering, like Lars Rasmussen, I think, who built Google Maps, and then our PM VP, and me and this fourth person, and the fourth person was leading the meeting. He was a designer. And then at the end of the meeting, I found out he was an intern. And I think one of the great things about being in that environment was that people like me and this guy Taylor, who's an amazing designer, always has been, and now his resume shows it, that to be in the room and to see those high-level discussions, and not only that, to lead them or to be an active participant in them, was just like a really great experience. And I'm super grateful for all the mentors I've had along the way. But I think that meeting was kind of the time when I was like, wait, I can help here. Right? Like these bigwig VPs, like I can actually also help, and that was really cool to just get to experience that.
Great. Well, as this comes to a close today, what are you interested in or excited about seeing from all the folks on stage?
Yeah, I think what I'm really excited about with this agenda, and I sort of crafted my talk to kind of fit this a little bit, is the understanding that this isn't just a technology problem, that this is also a cultural problem, right? And there's a lot of stuff there that where, for instance, executives have a tough time letting data in, because what if the data tells you you're wrong? Like, does that take away from your influence? Does that take away from like, your CTO's influence or your design lead's influence? And everyone, people I think a lot of times start off a little suspicious of the role that data can play. And so I noticed that a lot of what we're going to talk about today is cultural, and I think that's really important. Because you can do all the great data work in the world, but if it doesn't affect what happens in the real world, it's useless. And so I'm really excited to just get to learn more and contribute to this discussion about how to use data within the context of a company to accomplish great things, to build great products that can change the lives of like billions of users, which again is what tech is here to do, right? Change people's lives in the real world. So really excited to talk about that today.